because you started running ads today doesn't mean that you're going to get successful just like that. So with some clients, for example, when science client, some of the clients sign up with us, they usually tend to ask this question like, okay, how fast I can see the results. There are certain clients who have been running certain campaigns. So what I do is that I do an audit, I look at their numbers, so I can easily tell them, okay, within this much of time, I can even like double your revenue, because you already have the data, they have validated stuff. So it's just me coming in and making sure that I fill the gaps and I can optimize it so they can get that revenue and that results faster. But for someone, when you're starting out, when you have no idea, there's zero data, of course it's going to take a little time. But the problem is that if you stop halfway, now you have already spent the money, and also you have got some data, but you're not able to put that into a better use to get an outcome out of it. So you're like kind of in a phase where you've kind of invested but also not invested.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to season 4 of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that through CFO services and consulting. Now, this is season 4, where we are focusing on companies who have bought, sold, scaling, or excelling. Now, I've been in the game a little bit now. You know what I'm saying? Been in the marketing niche industry for a good little minute. And, I don't remember where it was I saw this. I think it was on Facebook. And somebody asked a question about, like, who's the best media buyer you know? And so in the comment section, people are putting all these names. And one of the names was somebody who's going to be on today's episode. And so I'm like, hey, bro, they saying you one of the best. So we should bring you on the podcast to show the people and like talk through some stuff. So he was like, let's do it. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to Gayathra for showing up. What's up, bro?
Hey, Cameron. Pleasure to be here. Great, like it's a privilege to be in the podcast. I've seen some of your previous ones. That's really pretty cool. I think this is a great thing you're doing because I think this kind of information is something that everyone is trying to gather and kind of learn. So I think great, man.
All right, let's jump into it. So for the people who don't know, you tell them your name of the company, and what exactly do you do?
Right. So I'm Gayatri. So recently, actually, this year I incorporated. I was otherwise a full-time freelancer. Right now, it's Rise in Marketing. And so I'm helping people with running Facebook ads, not just a Facebook ads part, but most about entire growth marketing, where we drive traffic, optimize their offer and the funnel. So we are just aligning those three things in the business, so they can grow as a business, get more leads. We have done different kind of industries, so it's not particular. We have done a lot of different industries at the moment.
Okay, cool. Now let's go into that, because some people are like, what do you mean not just ads? What do you mean the whole funnel and process? So break that down for those who may not be as established or who may think
Right.
incorrectly that it's just running the ads and Facebook can do that.
Right. Yeah, I think when I was starting as a beginner media buyer, my mind was like, oh, if I become like really good at running ads, that means I can get a lot of sales. And after a while, of course, what you realize is that your ad is more of the part where you're driving interest. It's more of like an amplifier of your business. It's nothing more than it's kind of amplify what you already have. It cannot create, or rather, solve the problems you have in terms of your marketing and sales. And that's where I realized that in order for you to scale a business and get results, leads, and everything, you already have to have, first of all, have something that people love, which is like an offer that offering that people were like, oh, I want that. And then of course you need to be able to translate that offer into a traffic source like a Facebook ads, if in this case. And then of course you have to have a funnel where what is your process in terms of converting that traffic or that lead to the sale. So when you combine these three things together, that's where you have a predictable sort of machine that can grow. You need all these three layers. And sometimes media buyers, when I was starting, I was purely looking at traffic, but there are certain accounts and there are certain businesses that we struggle to scale or kind of help them to grow because we haven't looked past that traffic layer. So there's other two layers also very important. So that's why we want to look at all three layers and then adjust all three layers to get the sale.
Okay. Now tell us a little bit, because like you said, you're working with different industries at different budgets and different ranges. Why are people saying you the best? Because to say somebody's the best, they're the top three that they know, that's a big thing. So like kind of walk us through, if I were whatever company you work with, like how are you helping me to grow? Because to your point, okay, we got the ads piece, but we got to optimize all these other pieces. So what are some of the wins you're getting? What are some of the things you're seeing in the current market, et cetera?
Right. So actually, before I came into the industry, actually someone who have gone through at least 5 to 6 different roles. Because for me, I'm someone who struggled always to like do something just for like a paycheck. Because not that I don't like money, it's the fact that when don't find anything like something like fulfilling, like day wise, because I feel like it's like a waste of time to like spend about 8 hours a day doing something you absolutely hate. And so that's something I struggle with. So I've done sales, I've done customer service, I've been a business consultant. So I've done like I've worn multiple hats throughout my career. So when I was, I think around 2019, I got an opportunity to join a exhibition company in Dubai. And at the time I didn't understood like exactly like what sort of opportunity that was. And until I realized, okay, this is like a big company that was running a lot of exhibition in global and Dubai. And that's where I got a lot of opportunity to spend like a lot of money and handle like generate like thousands of leads, which I was a little bit scared at the time. Because when someone give you like $100,000 to manage, and you're like, oh my god, like there's a lot of stress involved as well. So that's where I started. And for this Dubai client, I got this client about 5 years ago, and I still have the client. They have now grown from one exhibition to five. And this one exhibition, we have grown 3 to 5 times within the last 5 years. So that's the both visitor and exhibitor side. So as you know, Dubai is very competitive when it comes to exhibition. So, and then I've kind of moved on to other directions like e-commerce, where I have helped multiple businesses to track like 6 figures. And of course, recently, there's a school client. They were starting with a school offer, like a very low ticket offer, $9, like a recurring, like a membership. Last year, I think around November, we started. They had about 300. They wanted to kind of be in a really good place. So this March, we actually won the school games. And not only the category winner, but also overall MRR growth. So we went from 300 recurring members to 1,600, 1,000. And it was a crazy journey, because about 95% of that traffic was coming from Facebook ads. And it was something like, for me as well also, that was a stress test. Because the great thing is that we still made a like still profitable from the front end as well, which was crazy, because considering the fact that we didn't have a lot of levers to pull, because we were running everything on school, right? We don't have a control of website. Most of the stuff is out of control, right? So despite all of that, that was mine. Like it was something like I never anticipated, but I was able to do that because client trust in again, as I said, the client has a great offer, and a lot of things was in place, so it's very easy for me to come and do that. And of course, I also did some programs in here as well. Like last year, I did my own program in my own country. Opened up, we had about 200, 250 people, so that was also crazy. I'm someone who like implement things, as I said. Like I really love the learning, so I like to put that into practice and see how it works out. So it's kind of like that. That that rush you get when you see that something that you were able to like generate sales, like you're just sitting in one place and someone somehow out there just buying something just because of you. I felt like it's crazy, what I mean. So yeah.
Okay, so being in e-commerce and all these different industries, awesome. Okay, now walk us through, what's the best way I can ask this question? Like a client is coming to you, or let's go back a little bit further. What would be the biggest ad budget or media budget you've had to manage so far?
Right. So at the moment, right now, I have handled around maximum 250,000 per month. And that was mainly from the exhibitions, because since I used to handle a lot of exhibition globally, that was thing. But right now also we have a few clients. We are spending six figures. We started about $2,000 per like a month. Right now we are spending $5,000, $6,000 per day. So yeah, at that level.
Ooh. Okay. Now talk us through that, because some people are like, wait a minute, 6,000 a day or 200 grand a month or 100 grand a month is a lot. Can you walk us through the difference between people who may spend 3K a month and like their mindset and challenges versus somebody who spends 100K a month and their mindset and challenges?
Right. I think this is something that I also had to kind of learn at the hard way, because I think even for me as a business owner, uh, we tend to focus more on being able to be profitable at the front, and I think that's what everyone goes at one point or another. But the thing is that I think as a business you get to choose between whether you want to grow as fast as possible, or you want to kind of still like retain a profitability as you go. I think I'm not saying that neither of these is a bad. Like I think you had to choose between growth versus kind of maybe incremental growth with more, a little bit more profitability. I think that's where the difference come from, because most of the clients who actually grew very fast, they were the one who said like that, I don't mind. We literally have like zero, like in terms of we are even finding our having a high acquisition cost, and we are even fine like putting a little bit from that spend, because as long as we have this path to get that recurring income, and we can give a great experience, and then we can grow that customer base. Because I think most of the audits I have done, and after working with multiple brands, the number one thing I'm seeing the best brands have is that they are able to retain people. So they are very much focused on not that first purchase. They are more focused on getting that customer, giving great experience, because they know that if they do that, they can have a high lifetime value, where they would, some of these people will come back and buy from them again and again and again. I think that's where the business is now for the screw company as well. One of the things one of the things that he always consistently said is that, guys, this is the AI offer. We have to capitalize as much as possible, because when it rains you have to come there with a bucket, right? You're not going to like slow down and to get the obsessed with the ROAS and try to just minimize your downfall. You want to go as hard as possible, because what he realized was that if he had great number of people in a group, we can sell that again and again. So it's not about having that one first purchase, it's about having that series of purchases and somehow being able to retain the people as much as possible. And if you can do those things, and then you have a successful business. And that's where I think most of the people, I see the separation between someone who's very much, they look at that spend as something they have to really be cautious of. They don't see the value of spending that to get data. You get immediate traction to see what's working or what's not working or not. They get to have an idea in terms of what kind of messaging with people, like people will respond to. You get to pick all these things very easily with a few dollars. I mean, if you can like kind of um, increase it, you can have like a lot of growth very fast. That's why I feel like Facebook ads, like any sort of when you're doing paid ads, you have that sort of leverage. In otherwise, organic growth, you can't do that.
Okay, okay. I like that. I like that. So I'm trying to see how I want to word these questions because it's so interesting. Because like I've seen people who, okay, I only spend 1,500 a month, and then they get upset with their results, right? Or I get my results versus, I've gone to some conferences and masterminds where they're like, yeah, we spend 100K a month, but on the flip side, they're also doing 8 figures. So, from a mindset perspective, how do you help? Because I think you said at the beginning of the call, you've had some people that started with you at 2 or 3 thousand per month, and you've been able to kind of encourage them to spend more. Talk us through that process, because I know there's some people out here who like, I want to grow my agency or I want to grow my company, but I'm nervous. Is that going to help? Except,
Right. I think the first thing is that as any business, you have to kind of establish some sort of a KPIs. I think people tend to be very reactive when you don't know where your baseline is, right? Because I think if I ask most of the businesses, like, okay, tell me what is your close rate, like how many, what your conversion rate is like, most of the businesses even kind of scary. They don't know these numbers, but you should be knowing this because this is like a kind of give you a baseline in terms of how the business is performing, because Facebook, as I said, is something that works on top of what you have built. So if you feel like you have a great product and it's been validated, people are buying, and you are continuously growing that service and you're improving the service, and also people are coming back to you, that's a great sign that you've already built something. So so it's more of like Facebook as if you have a certain budget, what ultimately you should be doing is that you need to establish a baseline. Okay. I'm not saying that you should be spending crazy money, but a comfortable amount that you are fine putting into like to Facebook ads. Because as I said, just because you started running ads today doesn't mean that you're going to get successful just like that. So with some clients, for example, when science client, some of the clients sign up with us, they should tend to ask this question like, okay, how fast I can see the results. There are certain clients who have been running certain campaigns. So what I do is that I do an audit, I look at their numbers, so I can easily tell them, okay, within this much of time I can even like double your revenue, because you already have the data, they have validated stuff. So it's just me coming in and making sure that I fill the gaps and I can optimize it so they can get that revenue and that results faster. But for someone, when you're starting out, when you have no idea, there's zero data, of course it's going to take a little time. But the problem is that if you stop the halfway, now you have already spent the money, and also you have got some data, but you're not able to put that into a better use to get an outcome out of it. So you're like kind of in a phase where you've kind of invested but also not invested. I think that's where you don't want to be, because you have to be very comfortable and say, okay, I'm willing to at least put 3 to 6 months of money, this much, because I want to test, I want to see what's work, and then based on that I can scale. Because I think for anyone, when they start seeing that, okay, I'm getting results, I'm getting kind of good leads, I'm getting good sales, then they're like, okay, I'm open to spending more, because that makes sense, right? If you're putting more money and you're getting a certain traction from it, yes, of course it makes more sense to like spend more of money. But I think the fear comes from the fact that they feel like they might not win, that they might be spending some couple of $1,000, and they get some data and some insights, but they are not, still haven't cracked what's working for them. I think that's the fear coming from. So that's where you can't be halfway. You have to actually make a commitment and say, okay, I'm going to try for, it's like trying anything, you have to try for like 3 to 6 months, and then we're going to look at the KPIs from based on what I've tried. Has it got better, or am I seeing certain traction? So let me then double down on, focus on what works and try to get it to work from that way. So that's very simple, in that sense.
okay, okay, I get it. I get it. All right, let's keep going, because you talked about knowing their numbers and their metrics, and I'm an accountant, I'm a fractional
Right.
CFO. How does that kind of blend in? Because it's one thing for me to be like, you don't know your KPIs, you don't know your close rate, you don't know how many sales calls you need to have every month in order to even attempt to reach the goal. On the marketing side, what are some of the KPIs that you try to highlight for them, for the people that you've seen like that are doing the 50K, the 100K per month? What are some of the KPIs that they focus on, whereas the 2K or 3K a month person does not?
Right. I think when I look at that first kind, like the people who are spending a little bit of money, their whole obsession goes toward the return on ad spend, right? Because what they're trying to say is that, okay, if I spend this much, how much revenue I can generate from Facebook? Because they are kind of coming from a very limited mindset, because the moment they feel like they're spending a little bit more than what they gain, they panic. And that's why the obsession comes from. But if you look at someone who's a little bit more seasoned, what they're little bit looking at from a customer acquisition cost, because that's what the growth, like the entire game is. Like if you look at the best brands, like for example, a supplement company called Hims, like I
Oh,
think
I've heard
they
of
spend
them. I've
about,
seen that commercial.
Right. So I think, the crazy thing is that if you look at the strategy, what they did was that I think their first year they spent about like 70% of their budget went towards marketing, and they were at a loss. What they realized was that their biggest barrier at the moment when you're coming to the marketplace, you need to have customers. And of course, for a supplement, acquiring a supplement customer is expensive, and they were okay with it. So what they were willing to do is that they were literally fine acquiring a customer for a crazy amount of money because they knew that they had a great product. And with the kind of product they have, if they really like it, they're going to order and again and again. So over a period of time, within 2 months, it went from some, like a business who were pumping a lot of money for ads to actually making a lot of money. So because they had a retention, people were, again, they're buying supplements every month. So they were looking at subscription and things like that. And they grew. As I said, if you have a good, healthy amount of customers base, then you already have tapped, because now you are 100% not dependent on acquiring customers. Because whenever I see a business that's struggling, they're struggling because their entire stress goes towards Facebook ads. The moment traffic source, something happen, like Facebook do something, Mark Zuckerberg come and do some change. Now the entire marketing funnel, their lead, everything collapses, and they're now struggling. So that client, that like the seasoned clients, what they look at is their cost per acquisition, and of course what they're looking at is the average order value. What they're obsessed with is those three things. Like we are looking at conversion rate, like how can we increase conversion rate, because that's the kind of efficiency for us to see how well we are converting people, how our value what we're showing versus the process we are converting people, whether it's great. That's the first one. Second one is the average order value. What they're looking is that how much value that I can extract from a client. So that's where the upsell, cross sells, and one-time offers, everything's coming in place. And of course, last one is that acquisition cost plus lifetime value. What they're always seeing is that, okay, how can we increase the lifetime value of the customer? How we can keep them for longer? What sort of a process, kind of product we can introduce them, most of the time kind of recurring, to keep them for a long period of time. We can get more value and also give them more value. I think they look at that side, and they're not very much obsessed with ROAS alone. They look at still ROAS, kind of a benchmark to see how efficient we are, but their main focus is that how efficient they are in terms as a whole system, like conversion, average order value, and cost per acquisition. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. There it is. See, y'all, I know y'all think it's just the accounting, but you see, even the marketing guy wants you to know these metrics. These numbers are super important to driving you to the goals that you say you want to reach. It can't just be, he said it multiple times, can't just be, I'm spending 5K. Why am I not making 20 grand? You have to know the metrics. You have to do the optimization. You have to plan and map these things out so you can get where you want to go. All right, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. And I'm going to start asking more about your journey, right? So, what is something you did differently that changed the game for your growth? I know you said at first you were more on the freelancing side and you kind of changed that. So, like, walk us through that, because I think at some point we all start as like, I can do the thing, I can build you a website, I can do your accounting, but it's one thing to just kind of freelance versus now much more tailored and structured approach. Walk us through that change.
Right. I think for me, ever since I remember, I wanted to kind of get out of corporate world, not because I hated it. The fact that, I'm someone who always liked the fact that, like, freedom to create things. And I've been in places where, I've worked in banks, I've worked in telecommunication companies where, of course, there's a certain role, and it's kind of boxed me in. And I felt like I'm someone who like to like learn something new and try to like, say something, see what I can do with it. It's kind of guy. So I think at that point I realized, okay, I want to kind of transition to and build some sort of value apart from the corporate. And at that point, what I did was, I looked at some of the freelancers. What usually freelancers do is that they start from side. There are a few people sometimes they literally teach corporate and become like a freelancer overnight. But I felt like, for most of the people, and including myself, it was too risky, and it was it just felt like, of course, it's kind of do or die situation, but you'll somehow will make it, but you're going to struggle a lot. So what I did was that I was literally doing a lot of jobs. I was doing full-time jobs. I was like doing delivery. On top of that, I was doing part-time work. I didn't charge clients a lot. I just charged very small amount. I think the first client I charged, it was less than $50, I would say. I was like, it was nothing. But the win for me was, so okay, I want to get a client, handle it, because I have no idea in terms of how to onboard a client, the contracts. I didn't have any of it. So I just removed the bad, like rather like the lower the barrier as much as possible, and I define the win as getting a client and somehow not losing and delivering something. That's all. So that's what the whole transition from, and from that onwards, I started, learning, started making contracts little by little, and whenever I see a gap, okay, this is somewhere I have no clue. I started learning. So one of the, I think the early greatest lessons I got is from Tim Ferriss. You probably have heard the guy who wrote 4 Hour Work Week. So what he said in the 4 Hour Work, his book, is that uh, optimize to kind of build skills in your 20s, because otherwise it's very difficult to build something in your 30s. So I took that decision, like advice, to the heart, right? Because I felt like that's something I have to do. That means I really need to like learn the skill. So of course, instead of doing MBAs and a lot of stuff, I saved as much as possible, and I just invested in a lot of programs that could, literally like people who are like running agencies and who are already doing what I'm doing, what I wanted to do, right? Because I feel like that's the easiest way I can leverage time, because I don't have infinite time. I have to learn fast, and I also don't want to rely on like a university, because it's very much theoretical. They don't really like do things. So I felt like that's the easiest way for me to like speed up the process. So I was, even though I had like zero investments on the bank, like in my savings account, I was literally like pulling all the money I have and just investing in programs. So it was like learning, applying with the clients I have, because I had the full control of the client, because in my other agency I didn't have the full control. And so that's what I was doing. I was learning, applying. It was like a cycle. And little by little I got a lot of confidence. And of course, that doesn't mean that I know 100% everything. I still like learn new things, and I still feel like stupid. Like I feel like there's so much more that I have to learn. So it's like this cycle that, every month or so, even this month, I spent a considerable amount of money in like learning, even to do like literally for a client account. I hired someone who was another top dog in the industry for my own money to do an audit and give me advice and tell me what I can do. But I think that's where you actually can learn faster, where you are investing in your skills and your knowledge. And you do this repeated enough, and it becomes kind of normal. So I think that's the easiest process that has worked for me.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Got another question for you. What is something you believed about business early on that you've had to like completely unlearn? Like, I thought in order to be successful, I would have to do this. That is not the case.
Right. I think at one point or another, we try to understand, or rather interpret, success by looking at other people. Right. We do that all the time. I mean, including yourself and myself, I think we have at one point defined success means like this person. I think for me, back in the days, if anyone asked me what success was, I would have said, "Oh, I'm a CEO of a company driving like a nice car," and stuff like that. And it took a while for me to realize, after going through the journey and working with some of the CEOs and different kind of people in the industry, that I've realized that is like, of course, that's kind of looks nice on the surface, and I'm someone who wants more control from life and a little bit more freedom, because I feel like always that you don't have to just like choose one thing or another. Like life can be both fun, like, and like, do you can do something really productive with your time and make an impact and make money, but also have a good time. It's not like you have to choose between either and kind of abandon everything. And that's where I felt like, uh, that's something that I need to do. And I feel like if I didn't get exposed to some of the books and learnings from some people, I would have gone in that direction where I would have literally optimized my entire life based on this kind of this persona of someone who makes a lot of money, but literally have no growth, hate my life, don't have friends, and kind of isolated. And I feel like this that kind of thing, it doesn't make sense. And I think ever, when I look back in my life, I was most miserable when I was only doing that. That means I wasn't even going out for a walk, talking to like a few of the friends I have. I think that's a kind of miserable way to live. I mean, of course, you can succeed in what you do because you're 100% focused on that, but you still can do both. I feel like that's where most of the people are getting it wrong. And so they try to live up to this success, like a definition of like a person from what you've seen, and you're trying to live that fantasy without first trying to ask yourself, what do you really want? Yeah.
Okay. Tell me what's one money lesson you had to learn the hard way that you wish somebody would have told you about before you had to learn
Right. I think kind of cover that, which is like, I think when you're starting out, when you don't have a lot of money, you have this kind of limiting beliefs and kind of very much hesitant to spend money on things. Of course, you make some stupid decision with your money as well when you get little bit of money when you start in the career. But I think there are certain times in my life, I there are certain opportunities that I would have spent on things that to kind of increase my value, but I kind of didn't do that because I felt like I was just consistently looking at what I had, and I felt like I need to protect that at all cost. And I didn't want to like leverage the money that I already have. And that's, I feel like, something like, I think most of the people at one point or another do that because when you come from not having a lot of opportunities, and you don't, like, for example, my first job was like a call center agent, and I was just doing part-time work at the time, and of course the pay was like trash, like literally was nothing. But so at the time, that money, even though it was a little, it felt like such a like a large amount. So it feels weird. I think the first time I kind of invested like maybe two times that salary onto like learning like internet like a marketing program. It feels like, oh my god, like what am I doing with this money? Like there's a lot of stress, and there's a lot of what can I say, like it feels like you shouldn't have spent that money on that, even though deep inside that's going to open you a lot of new opportunities. You somehow trying to hold on to that. And I even remember in few years ago, I got into a sales call with one of the ClickFunnels, like probably know Russell Brunson. And so they have this 2 Comma Club award, so there's a coach from that. And at the time, I wanted to have a consultation, like coaching session with them, and he had a program, and it was about $2,500 per month. And I had the money in my bank, but in my inside, I felt like it's a stupid amount of money to spend on it, even though I realized that could actually improve and speed my entire process in terms of like agency growth and stuff. But I didn't do that because I felt like, no, I can figure that out. And at the time, I was like, like, give me a few months, I'll come back to you. And I did. And at the time, I invested that about $2,500 for a month. And maybe about 1 month after that, I was actually like, I literally 2x my entire revenue from my agency. And at the time, I was thinking like, why didn't I do this before? Right? Because if I did the same, because I had the money at the time, I was very much frightened and scared that I would lose it. So I think we all do that. Sometimes we kind of hold on to what could go wrong, but we never ask ourselves, what if this goes the way we want? Like, what if we actually improve that? I think we stress too much on, we are optimizing towards that, like, kind of lose, how we can stop losing, where we actually should be like optimizing towards like how we can even faster. So yeah, I should have invested much faster and learned much faster.
I feel that. I feel that. All right, let's go rapid fire. Here we go. This is one of my favorite sections. All right. If you could go back in time, like a time machine, you got 30 seconds, but you know every single thing you know right to this second. And you could go back to like 18-year-old you or 22-year-old you, what would you say?
Don't overthink. Always take the next action from what you know. You don't need to know everything, and then figure out as you go. And you'll screw up, but also you will learn, and then you'll somehow will find out a way. And you have to have faith in yourself, and that's the most simplest thing I could say. Like, there's nothing much to it. Even you feel like you have to learn everything and know everything to succeed, but you don't have to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. If you had a magic wand and you could fix one part of your agency overnight, like you wake up tomorrow and it's already fixed, what would that be?
I think that's finding and hiring top talent. That's something I've sort of struggled because in where I am in Sri Lanka, most of the people are not very connected with the global market. I think when it comes to Asia, the India is much far ahead. So I had to really find people, train and retain them. And I do have few people as contractors, most of them. But that's where the most of the stress were coming from, because even right now, I want to grow, but I'm capped with my time plus like literally struggling to find good people uh, who I can grow with, because I'm not like a typical boss who trying to control people, do this, do that. I appreciate freedom and I want to give people freedom as well. So trying to find people with similar vision and kind of people who are accountable to grow and learn and have that passion to like what we do, because that is very important, I think, in the industry, because it changes, it's very stressful. So unless you really enjoy that performance marketing and dealing with this whole algorithms and ads and all these thousands of variables, some of them you don't even have control over. So you have to have some sort of like likeness to it. You have to kind of enjoy it. I think trying to find people who have those attributes altogether, it's not easy, I think. So if that can happen, I think that's great.
Okay. All right. Next question. Fast forward 12 months. So this is this time next year in 2027. What's one milestone or win you'd love to be celebrating a year from now?
Right. I think we recently started from my end, because something I wanted to do is to create something on my own. As in, I always help other businesses to succeed, and that's a great thing, I believe. But at the end of the day, I feel like I also want to create something. And so I recently started a course, like a program from my end, and it's doing well. I want to scale that. And of course, we started creating new SaaS businesses with the whole new AI world. So we're just starting out. So I'm pretty sure next year I have a plan to do 50K monthly recurring revenue from these few apps. That's where I'm thinking. And of course, I have a few clients we are partnered up with, similar scenario, where we are more of partners now, not clients, because I want to build those ones. And that's where I want to be next year, build something on my own, and also with a few clients, and hitting those goals, and not really focus 100% on client delivery.
Okay, that makes sense. Nothing wrong with some app usage here and building that up. All right, last question. What's one habit or mindset that helps you stay consistent even when things feel chaotic? So, like for me, I know I go to the gym Monday through Friday. That's kind of like my get all the negativity out, lift and things like that. I also have like at nighttime, of course, me and the wife, we got our shows that we'll watch. or sometimes we'll just sit down and talk. So like, what are some of those things for you that kind of help you to stay balanced and be able to work through things?
I think one of the things that really helps me is that walking. I know it's again, for some people it might be different, but for me, I find when I'm dealing with some things, when I, you know, maybe just step out for a bit and I do like a walk, maybe it can be like 30 minutes, it can have a drastic effect on my mood and at least for me, and I found to be very helpful because I feel like when I'm walking, I tend to like think through things and kind of process things much better. So I think for me, when I keep my body moving, like nothing like crazy work, like weightlifting or something like that, but just simple walking, just nothing to like compete or trying to do calories like calorie counts or like step counts or nothing like that. Just walking, maybe like an hour, just thinking. It just can really change my mood and can be like literally can be get me out of any sort of kind of a bad mood for sure. So I think for me that was like a top priority one. And second, I think I would be sleep for sure. I think in my career, the early stages, I sacrificed a lot of my sleep for sure, and of course that had a lot of sort of bad effect on myself, my health. And of course, right now, I think you have to have really good sleep. You should be optimizing for sleep at least 7 to 8 hours, because that's going to give you a different kind of energy. And of course, last one, can't this 100%. I have to do this. I think for everyone, that's diet for sure. Because worst time in my life always had really bad food in it, right? So if I had a good like a nutrition plan and a great like a healthy like a healthy routine with myself and food, I found to be my health like my power my entire energy was very much consistent and much more stable when I had those foundations in place. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to bring it to a close because I know he has to go help more people. He's, of course, managing these ad budgets. So hopefully, you guys really understood what he was talking about, right? From the mindsets of people who are only spending a couple thousand versus those that are spending upwards to six figures every month to drive revenue. He even gave you some of the KPIs that you should be focusing on and looking at and tracking to ensure that you're not just so caught up in the money going out, but what is it producing? Are we hitting our metrics? Do we even have metrics? So these are the types of people that we want to continue to bring on the podcast, not only so you guys can stay encouraged and know that there is a better way than just running yourself into the ground, but to also learn from each other and see what are the different things going on. Again, tell them, just in case they missed it, name of the company, and how they can get in touch with you, whether that's social media, website, whatever.
Right. So I'm Gatra Pereira, so from Ryzen Marketing LLC. So you can search in Facebook, Gatra Pereira. There's only like one, so we can connect. Would be thrilled to connect with all of you. So great, thank you.
And there you have it. All right, y'all. This is the end of the episode. These are the type of people we are committed to finding. All right. So until the next time, everybody take care of yourselves. Peace.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.